Hey guys, Coach Invictus here. Thank you for watching my fledgling lifestyle channel. Today we're going to talk about nutritional studies, their scientific veracity or lack thereof. So, in the uh, in the debate, the battle between proper human lifestyles, there are legions and hordes of so-called science lovers who throw trials and analyses and studies in your face, data in your face, and thinking that any of this means anything at all. And it's really difficult to wrap your head around because most of us are brought up to believe that science is kind of like a religion that you don't question. There are dogmas, and there are priests and theologians, scientists, the experts that you don't question. They're smarter than you. They're more important than you. You sit down, you shut up, and you do what you're told. Listen to what they tell you, especially in the nutrition and lifestyle space. And it's really difficult to wrap your head around the fact that none of these people know what they're talking about at all, and none of the literature that they're throwing in your face means anything at all from a scientific standpoint. And the reason is that the scientific method exists. And I don't know if they teach the scientific method in school anymore, but they certainly don't hold it up as the pillar, as the beacon of just you know it's science. The scientific method is science. That's what science is. It's the scientific method. If you don't know what it is, you might want to go look it up. But one of the pillars, if not the pillar, the foundation of the scientific method is the ability to control for behavior and environment in these scientific interventions. And scientific interventions have never been done on human beings for one simple reason: it would be egregiously immoral to do so in a proper context. So in a proper scientific context, you would have to sequester human beings at birth, and really there would be confounding variables there because the life of their parents would have to be taken into account, and you can't control for that. At some point, you're gonna have to say, "Wow, there's just absolutely no control here." But the children would really need to be genetically identical. So you would need, at the very least, a set of identical twins. But really, you'd probably want quite a few genetically identical human beings, which means you'd probably have to clone them. You would have to sequester them at birth and basically enslave them. And you would have to control every aspect of their lives. And you would have a control group and a variable group. And the variable group will be doing everything that the control group is doing to the T, to the exact, except for the variable one thing that they're studying. And that would be egregiously immoral. Obviously, no one would ever do that. And even if they, you know, attempted an intervention, a scientific intervention on humans who were old enough to give consent, it would, aside from the fact that their entire life heretofore would be a rat's nest of confounding variables per person times how many hundreds or thousands of people. But it would be, extremely expensive and impractical to get enough people for long enough and control everything that they do in such a way. So it's never been done before. It will never be done. And because control, I want you to imagine, even if they were to do that now, like even if so, not that, but not a proper scientific intervention, but like these observational associative studies where you've got like the lifestyle of just one human being varies from day to day to day. Let's say that's me. And then you multiply that by dozens or hundreds or thousands of people. They're all individuals like me doing different things than I am and doing different things on their day to day too. Like not every day is the same for most people. And then you multiply that by weeks or months or years, and there's not going to be any signal at all in there. It's going to be total nonsense, total gobbledygook. It's not. It's going to be, like just it's just going to be crap. And that's what it is. It's crap. And there are just enormous amounts of this crap literature, and you think because there's so much of it that there's got to be some kind of truth to it. I mean, like this, they just keep putting it out. They keep putting it out and putting it out, and everything's pointing to a certain cause and effect, uh, you know, relationship. Let's say between LDL and heart disease or whatever. But zero times infinity is still zero, guys. I mean, the studies are not saying anything meaningful from a scientific standpoint. The scientific veracity is shit. It's not there. It's interesting. You can use responsible language with these with these studies. You could say there's an association between LDL and heart disease, and there absolutely is. There is an irrefutable association between LDL and heart disease. The question is that association causal? And how do you figure that out? How do you figure that out through um, associative observational studies? You don't. You have to go to biochemistry. If you go to biochemistry, you figure out that the LDL's association to heart disease is about the same as a firefighter's association to being on the scene of the fire. So they didn't cause the fire, but they're there for the fire. It's the same relationship, really. It's there. The LDL is there to reverse the damage or to stop the damage being done. Same way that a firefighter is there to put out a fire when a house is on fire. But they will tell you that there's causal relationships, and there just isn't. It's very, very irresponsible. They think they have enough data and enough literature to form a consensus. And again, zero times infinity is zero, guys. I mean, you cannot control for human behavior. There's too many confounding variables, practically infinite confounding variables. If you have enough people over a long enough period of time, and not even accounting for the life that they lived up until the point that the study even began, which is even more infinite confounding variables. It's just absolute nonsense, and it has no scientific veracity. And anybody throwing these literature and this, they can throw a mountain of literature in your face and you can laugh it off because it means absolutely nothing. Especially when you account for the fact that corporate marketing has defrauded science for, I don't know, the last almost 100 years, if not 100 years. When the sugar and when the seed oil industry, in particular Procter and Gamble, and then the sugar industry started paying scientists and experts to put out studies pointing to cholesterol and LDL as the cause of heart disease, when it was always going to be the inflammatory non-foods that we're eating, particularly seed oils and sugar. And then when the pharmaceutical industry uh, realized they can get in on the grift by producing drugs that lower your cholesterol, then the literature really started to pour in. And their statins will lower your cholesterol, but if you read their inserts, they will also tell you that there is no association between statin use and lowering your risk of heart disease. It's, it's not. There's no association at all between your risk of heart disease and taking statin and lowering your cholesterol. And they just say it right there in the inserts. And yet it's a massive cash cow for them. So they're going to keep pumping out the studies that promote their cash cow, and it's nothing but marketing. It's not science at all. It'll never approach scientific veracity. Won't even come close to it. We want to do the best we can with what we have, as long as we understand that with the tools available to us as human beings and with a code of morals and ethics, we will never ever come close to establishing cause and effect. You can't even really say that smoking causes lung cancer because, for one simple fact, not everybody who smokes gets lung cancer. Some people smoke their entire lives and live very, very long lives and never develop lung cancer. So there has to be other factors that are contributing. Yes, there is a strong association between smoking and lung cancer, and that's the proper responsible language to use. You don't want to say that smoking causes lung cancer. Can't say it. Can't say LDL causes heart disease. Can't say anything causes anything, really. Even if you do a proper scientific intervention, what it's really supposed to do is kind of provoke further inquiry. Inspire you to ask better questions. You're never supposed to say the science is settled in a proper scientific context. And in fact, saying that it's settled scientifically is literally an abomination to science. It's a smack of the face of science. It is literally the opposite of science, especially with these associative observational studies that have zero control in them whatsoever. So understand that. I know it's hard to wrap your heads around because the science, the science with a dollar sign for an S, has been so just omnipresent and it convinced you that it's omnipotent for so long. It's just that you grew up, especially if you're older, these boomers and whatnot. They just really grew up at a time when science actually had some kind of integrity, for one thing. Um, and you know, it's hard to wrap your head around. It's hard for someone, especially, and you get beaten down saying that you're not important, you're not smart enough to figure these things out. Listen to the experts, listen to the scientists. So it's really hard to have the balls really to stand up and says, no, you're wrong, or you're using improper language, and your science doesn't establish anything. It does not establish anything of what you're claiming it does as far as cause and effect. Um, so use responsible language when it comes to science. You can say there's an association between something, just like there's an association between ice cream sales and sunburn at the beach. Does ice cream sales cause sunburn? No, but there's an association, absolutely. So it's very important that association does not equal causation. It cannot. It never will. And just clear that out of your head that you're not smart enough or important enough to tell science what science is, because science says what science is. And if you understand science, then it doesn't matter what their credentials are. It doesn't matter how many papers of literature they put out that are completely unscientific. A lot of them are scientific. They're just misinterpreted. As they'll say there's an association, and then the people will wave it in your face and say, "See, LDL causes heart disease," or X causes Y, and then and these are people who should know better. These are people who have PhDs. They're just influencers who can't keep their mouth shut, and they're just total charlatans, Lee Norton. So anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you next week, hopefully with another interesting